Hey guys, tonight we drift back to 18th century Paris, where the city's heartbeat pulses not only through grand palaces and bustling markets but also in the warm, flower-dusted corners of bakeries waking up before dawn. You're standing just outside a modest bakery, the sky still a deep shade of indigo, stars twinkling faintly above. The scent of yeast and wood smoke drifts out as the bakers begin to stir, their hands already deep in dough and their faces illuminated by flickering candlelight and the gentle glow of the wood-fired ovens. The streets are silent, save for the soft footsteps of these early risers, slipping in and out of shadowed alleyways. You can almost taste the promise of fresh bread, the crusty baguettes and delicate pastries soon to fill the city's air with irresistible warmth. But here's the reality check. This life isn't for the faint of heart or the night owl, who likes to sleep in. You probably wouldn't last a single shift in one of these bakeries. The ovens are scorching hot, the hours brutal, and the air thick with flour dust that coats everything, making even breathing feel like a workout. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're at it, tell me where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now. I'm curious to see just how global this sleepy little journey is. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Inside the bakery, the ritual begins in earnest. The bakers, dressed in simple linen shirts and coarse woolen trousers, move with practiced grace. Their hands dip into big wooden troughs filled with bubbling sourdough starters, or sift flour carefully through coarse sieves to catch any impurities. This isn't just bread making, it's an art steeped in tradition. The ovens, massive stone constructions heated by burning logs for hours, must be just right. Too hot and the bread burns on the outside, too cold and the dough won't rise. One baker checks the fire's glow by tossing a small piece of wood onto the embers and judging the smoke's color. Another kneads dough with rhythmic precision, his calloused hands moving almost meditatively. There's a quiet camaraderie here, though not without its hierarchy. Apprentices scramble to fetch water or firewood, careful not to disturb the masters. You notice the faintest hint of lavender in the air, an odd addition, some say, to calm nerves during these early hours. Lavender was sometimes mixed into dough for special occasions, a quirky detail historians still debate regarding its widespread use. As the hours tick by, the first loaves slide out of the ovens, their crusts crackling softly in the morning chill. The smell is intoxicating, coaxing awake even the most reluctant of Parisians. Soon, the bakers will pack these fresh goods onto wooden trays, ready to supply the city's bustling marketplaces and eager patrons. You watch as a baker, wiping sweat from his brow, glances out the window toward the waking city. Beyond these bakery walls, Paris stirs slowly to life, carriages rumbling, vendors shouting, and the soft chatter of dawn prayers from nearby churches. Historians still argue about how much of the baker's early morning routine was pure necessity, and how much was tradition passed down, layered with superstitions about good luck and prosperity. But for now, in this quiet, warm room filled with the scent of baking bread and the steady glow of firelight, you find a strange comfort, a cozy, timeless heartbeat that pulses through the city long before sunrise. You follow the bakers into the heart of their craft, the mysterious art of bread making, where the humble loaf transforms into a symbol of life itself. The air is thick with flour dust, and your fingers brush against the coarse wooden tables scarred from decades of kneading. The dough here isn't just flour and water, it's a living thing, fed with sourdough starters that some bakers claim have been nurtured for generations. You watch as a baker adds a pinch of a curious ingredient, dried grape skins, into a batch of dough. It's not just for flavor, it helps ferment the bread in a way that's both subtle and mysterious. You might raise an eyebrow, but this was an 18th century innovation that set Parisian bread apart, a secret whispered from one generation of bakers to the next. Some swear by adding crushed eggshells to keep the dough's texture light, a practice historians still debate for its effectiveness and origin. The bakers use wooden peels, long-handled paddles, to place loaves deep into the fiery ovens, timing each batch with precision that rivals a watchmaker. The ovens themselves are wonders, made of brick and stone, retaining heat for hours. You catch a glimpse of a small pile of birchwood nearby, favored for the slow, steady heat it provides, essential for the perfect crust. As the loaves bake, the bakers gather around a worn oak table, sharing stories and occasional jokes, their voices low and warm. These moments of respite between batches are where recipes were passed and legends were born. A baker recounts the tale of a bread so dense that it could be used as a weapon in a pinch, while another boasts of a croissant so flaky it could crumble at a whisper. You might be surprised to learn that these bakers often worked through the night, catering not only to morning customers, but to the city's growing nightlife. Late-night customers included night watchmen, tavern workers, and anyone craving a fresh bite after the sun had set. The bakery was not just a workplace, it was a hub of community, warmth, and life when the rest of Paris slept or reveled. The art of bread making was also a source of pride and rivalry. Bakers competed fiercely to perfect their crusts and crumb, each swearing by their unique techniques and secret ingredients. Some maintained family recipes dating back centuries, while others were bold innovators, pushing the boundaries of traditional baking. Amidst the camaraderie and competition, you notice a small ritual. Before each batch, bakers often touched a piece of dough and kissed their fingertips, a silent blessing for the bread's success. This tiny gesture speaks volumes about the reverence they held for their craft, a blend of superstition, tradition, and love. Historians still argue how much these traditions influenced the culinary culture of Paris and whether the mysterious ingredients truly altered the bread or simply the baker's confidence. As fresh loaves emerge golden and steaming, you breathe in deeply, the warm, yeasty aroma filling the room, and hinting at the simple pleasures baked into every bite. This, you realize, is the true magic of the Parisian bakery, a cozy blend of science, art, and a pinch of mystery, simmering quietly under the city's moonlit sky. You step outside into the awakening streets of Paris, as the night's final shadows give way to a faint, rosy dawn. But the city isn't entirely quiet. Round dimly lit corners and along cobblestone streets, a different kind of hustle is unfolding, the nighttime market bustle, where bakers' goods find their eager customers. Lanterns bob gently on wooden carts, and voices murmur in low exchanges, the scent of freshly baked bread mingling with the cool morning air. You see a group of bakers carefully loading wooden trays, piled high with warm loaves, buttery croissants, and flaky pastries onto carts. Their hands move deftly despite the cold, wrapping the bread in coarse linen or paper before securing it for transport. The city's night markets are alive and noisy, filled with merchants, fishermen, and late-night revelers, each with their own reason for seeking fresh sustenance in the early hours. The streets are lit by flickering oil lamps, their light casting dancing shadows on the stone walls. Horse-drawn carts clatter by, navigating the narrow lanes with practiced ease. The bakers call out softly to their clients, voices low but confident, creating a rhythm of barter and greetings that pulse through the marketplace. You notice that these nocturnal deliveries are vital. Many Parisians start their days early, but some work through the night, from innkeepers to watchmen, and rely heavily on bakers to keep their tables full. Bakers who serve this clientele were respected, their work considered essential, not just for the bread but for the social fabric they helped maintain. Curiously, the markets also double as places where bakers exchanged tips, rumors, and occasionally, secret recipes. Under the cover of darkness, these trades were more than just business, they were communal rituals that bound the city's bakers together. You might even catch a whispered debate about the best flour source, or a baker boasting about a newly mastered technique. A few bakers have adapted special lamps that protect the bread from dust and dampness during transit, a clever medieval innovation that historians still debate the origin of. Some suggest these lamps were inspired by similar devices, used by apothecaries to preserve herbs. As you watch the scene unfold, you sense a warmth that goes beyond the bread itself. The night markets, with their gentle hum and soft light, offer a surprisingly cozy side to a city that can often seem harsh and relentless by day. There's a rhythm here, quiet but steady, a pulse that continues long after most of Paris has surrendered to sleep. And then there's the occasional stray cat weaving through the market stalls, their eyes gleaming like tiny lanterns in the dark, silently claiming a share of the spoils. Their presence, much like the bakers, is a constant and comforting part of the nocturnal landscape. Historians still argue how much the nighttime market culture influenced Paris' social development, but there's no denying its vital role in sustaining a city perpetually on the move. For the bakers, these dark hours were not only about work but about connection to their craft, their community, and the city that never truly rests. You take a deep breath, letting the mixed scents of bread, smoke, and wet stone settle in your lungs, and realize that while the night's coziness may be fleeting, it leaves a lasting imprint on the city's soul. You slip back inside one of the bakeries, where the atmosphere shifts subtly. Here, the world of flour and fire is also a world of order and tradition, embodied in the Bakers' Guild, a sleepy hierarchy that rules the nocturnal baking scene. You see masters, journeymen, and apprentices moving through their designated roles with quiet precision, the unspoken rules as old as the city itself. The guild hall, tucked away in a side room, bears the marks of centuries of bakers' gatherings, worn wooden benches, faded banners embroidered with sheaves of wheat, and parchment scrolls listing guild laws. Here, disputes were settled, secrets exchanged, and promotions granted. Membership was both an honor and a burden, a ticket to prestige and a lifelong commitment to the craft. You watch an apprentice nervously present his first batch of dough to the master baker, who inspects it with a critical eye. A nod means approval. A frown means hours of extra kneading or worse, repetition until perfection is achieved. The tension in the room is palpable, yet there's a camaraderie beneath it, all forged through shared flour-covered toil. Historians still argue whether the guild's strict hierarchy fostered innovation or stifled creativity. Some claim the guild protected the craft from dilution, ensuring quality. Others suggest it maintained monopolies, keeping outsiders out and traditions rigid. As the night deepens, you notice the apprentices' fatigue. Their youthful faces betray weariness, yet their determination shines through. The masters occasionally offer gentle guidance or share old baking tales, lightening the mood with humor. A joke about a baker whose bread always rose, like the sun on a lazy morning, draws a few tired chuckles. Outside the guild hall, the city's noises fade, but inside, the guild remains a bustling hive of activity. The social order here is clear. The master leads, the journeyman supports, and the apprentice learns, each stage a rite of passage. You overhear whispered stories about secret recipes guarded jealously within the guild, some dating back to the Middle Ages. One tale tells of a baker who supposedly infused dough with a rare herb to grant longevity, claim met with skepticism but passed along as a hopeful legend. There's also a curious tradition involving the baker's blessing, a quiet moment before baking begins, where flour is scattered in the air, and a silent wish made for the dough to rise and the bread to nourish. You lean back against a cool stone wall, watching the subtle dance of guild members, their movements choreographed by centuries of custom. Despite the exhaustion, there's pride here, a feeling that you're part of something bigger than yourself. And in this quiet, intimate world of the guild, the bakers not only craft bread, but also build bonds that sustain them through the long, cold nights. The weight of tradition and the warmth of companionship blend seamlessly, creating a cozy refuge amid the city's restless energy. You stand in the warm glow of the baker's hearth, where the air carries more than just the scent of baking bread. It's alive with whispers of ancient beliefs, fireside superstitions, and rituals baked deep into the dough. Bakers here carry a trove of customs that might seem odd to modern ears, but for them, these quirky habits were as essential as flour and water. One baker pauses to sprinkle a pinch of salt over his shoulder before kneading dough, a charm believed to ward off bad luck and ensure the bread rises well. Nearby, a wooden paddle rests against the oven wall, said to have once been blessed by a traveling monk. Touching it before baking was thought to bring good fortune. You catch a glimpse of a small sprig of rue tucked into a basket, its bitter leaves believed to protect the bakery from evil spirits and sourdough. Fires in the ovens weren't just practical, they were symbolic. Bakers often whispered wishes into the flames, or silently offered thanks for their warmth and life-giving power. Some even believed that certain parts of the oven, especially the stones nearest the fire, held protective spirits who guarded the bread's success. An old tale circulates of a baker who once baked a loaf so perfect it was said to carry the blessing of Saint Honor himself, the patron saint of bakers. The loaf brought prosperity to the bakery for an entire year. Stories like these, true or not, knitted the community together and soothed restless nights. You notice a curious object hanging near the hearth, a small iron horseshoe, inverted and blackened by smoke. Its presence is practical and protective, keeping fires burning well and misfortune at bay. Historians still argue how widespread such folk beliefs were across different Parisian bakeries, but their persistence is undeniable. As the fire crackles softly, you glimpse a faint outline of a baker's mark etched into the wooden doorframe, an ancient symbol meant to ensure that no harm befalls those who enter. These marks were a blend of artistry and superstition, unique to each bakery, and passed down through generations. Despite these customs, mishaps were common. Dough sometimes refused to rise, ovens caught unexpected fires, and ingredients went missing. Bakers developed elaborate rituals to cope, lighting candles in specific orders, reciting brief prayers, or leaving small offerings of breadcrumbs at crossroads. All attempts to keep the fickle forces of baking on their side. You catch the soft murmur of a baker explaining to an apprentice that sometimes, when the dough is stubborn, it helps to speak gently to it, to coax it to rise like a shy child. This personification of dough as a living entity is a reminder of the deep respect and sometimes playful affection bakers held for their craft. Under the warm glow of the oven light, you feel a comforting sense of continuity, a chain linking past to present through flour, fire, and faith. The odd rituals and superstitions, far from mere folly, created a sacred rhythm to the work, turning routine into reverence. And as you breathe in the mingling scents of burning wood and baking bread, you realize that these fireside customs were a quiet, cozy rebellion against uncertainty, a way for bakers to hold on to hope and mastery in a world that often felt unpredictable. You find yourself reclining in a quiet corner of the bakery, the soft glow of candlelight casting long shadows on the flour-dusted walls. It's the dead of night, and the bustle has settled into a cozy, secretive rhythm. Here, the bakers gather not for work, but for their informal midnight snacks, a private tradition of sharing treats and stories far from the city's waking eyes. The air smells sweet with the residue of sugar and butter, and you spot a wooden tray heavy with flaky pastries dusted in powdered sugar. An apprentice hands around a small cup of spiced wine, the warmth cutting through the cool night air. This moment isn't just about nourishment, it's about comfort and camaraderie, a soft pause amid the relentless demands of their craft. You listen as one baker shares a quirky recipe for a honey-sweetened brioche that was said to be a favorite of Madame de Pompadour, a royal indulgence whispered about in hushed tones. Another swears by a secret blend of herbs that gives bread a subtle warmth, hinting at the strange ways bakers personalize their fare. Between bites, laughter bubbles up. Someone recounts a story of a baker who accidentally swapped salt for sugar and served a batch of unintentional, sweet bread to a very displeased noble. The tale is told with affectionate teasing, the kind that only years of shared experience can foster. You notice a small wooden box containing a game of dice, and after hours pastime to lighten the night. The baker's hands, roughened by kneading and heat, move with surprising nimbleness, their faces softening in the dim light. It's a world away from the fiery ovens and relentless schedules. Historians still debate how widespread these midnight gatherings were, with some suggesting they were rare indulgences, while others believe they were common in most bakeries. Either way, these moments allowed bakers to unwind, build friendships, and sustain morale during the long, grueling hours. You spot a humble loaf resting untouched on a shelf, save for a baker who fell ill earlier in the week, a silent gesture of care and solidarity. It's small details like this that reveal the deep bonds forged in flour and fire. As the night stretches on, stories give way to quiet companionship. The soft shuffle of feet, the clinking of cups, and the occasional burst of laughter create a gentle lullaby against the distant sounds of a city that never truly sleeps. You breathe in the warm, buttery air and feel a profound sense of belonging in this cozy, nocturnal world. It's a reminder that behind every loaf of bread, there's a story, a community, a tradition, a shared humanity. You step back into the baker's inner sanctum, drawn to the heart of the operation, the tools and ovens that transform simple ingredients into the city's beloved bread. These aren't your modern machines but ancient, time-tested instruments, each with a story etched into its wood and stone. The ovens dominate the room, massive brick domes heated by blazing wood fires that crackle and glow with an orange warmth. Their stone floors are blackened by centuries of use, yet meticulously cared for. Bakers carry long wooden peels, flat paddles carved from chestnut or oak, with worn handles polished smooth by countless hands. You watch as one baker expertly slides a batch of dough into the oven's mouth, timing its placement to ensure even baking. The design of these medieval ovens is a marvel of simplicity and efficiency. Heated for hours before baking, their radiant heat traps moisture and produces crusts that crackle with just the right amount of resistance. Birch and oak are preferred woods, prized for their slow, steady burn. A small pile of birch logs sits neatly in a corner, awaiting their turn to fuel the fire. Nearby, an array of wooden bowls, wicker baskets, and iron hooks hang from sturdy beams, their surfaces dusted with flour. The baker's workbench is scarred with knife marks and flour stains, evidence of daily toil. Among the tools is a curious wooden dough trough, carved from a single block of wood, where yeast starters bubble and ferment slowly, a living mixture passed down through generations. You notice the careful layering of ovens in some bakeries, designed to bake different kinds of bread simultaneously, from dense rye to light, airy rolls. The heat management requires skill and patience. Too hot, and the bread burns; too cool, and it stays doughy inside. Mastery of these ovens was a badge of honor. The fire tongs and iron pokers used to tend the flames are sometimes ornately decorated, reflecting the pride bakers took in their craft. Some ovens have intricate stone carvings depicting wheat sheaves or religious symbols, blending function with art. Historians still debate whether some of the baking tools and oven designs originated locally or were influenced by distant regions, like Italy or the Middle East, reflecting Pris place in a vibrant trade network. As you watch a baker carefully adjust embers with a long iron rod, you understand that these tools aren't just instruments, but extensions of the baker's body and soul. The tactile connection between hand, tool, and dough is almost sacred. Suddenly, a small puff of flour escapes a sieve, catching the light like a tiny cloud. You smile, realizing that in this ancient kitchen, every grain tells a story of patience, skill, and the quiet magic that turns simple ingredients into the daily miracle of bread. You step out onto the street, the faint chill of early morning brushing against your skin, yet the city feels alive with warmth. The smell of fresh bread spills from every bakery window, mingling with the damp stone and wood smoke to create a signature aroma that defines Paris itself. This is the smell of the city's nightlife fading gently into dawn, a comforting, soft scent that wraps around you like a well-worn cloak. As you wander through the narrow alleys, the air is thick with the mingled scents of baking, roasting chestnuts, and faint traces of herbs tucked into simmering stews from nearby homes. The bakeries, glowing softly with lantern light, come beacons in the waking city, inviting early risers and night owls alike to savor the promise of fresh bread. The aroma isn't just a byproduct of baking, it's a social signal, a call to gather and share. Vendors and patrons recognize the scent as a sign that the city is stirring. Shops will soon open, markets will bustle, and daily life will resume its relentless pace. You catch sight of a small cluster of street vendors setting up stalls, their carts laden with crisp baguettes, buttery pastries, and fragrant rolls, all fresh from the ovens. The vendors exchange greetings with bakers as they pass by, a network of connection powered by shared dedication to the city's sustenance. The scent also carries subtle variations depending on the baker's specialties. Some favor richer, egg-enriched doughs that lend a sweet, warm undertone, while others bake denser, earthier rye breads, grounding the aroma with hearty depth. This diversity reflects the city's social tapestry, from humble neighborhoods to more affluent quarters. Historians still debate how much the nighttime baking aroma influenced Parisian culture and literature, with some scholars suggesting it inspired poets and painters seeking to capture the city's essence. Others believe it was simply a practical byproduct of necessity, yet it undeniably shaped the city's identity. As you inhale deeply, the comforting smell stirs memories not just of bread but of community, neighbors greeting each other over shared loaves, children eagerly waiting for treats, and lovers meeting beneath lamplight shadows, their conversations sweetened by the scent of fresh pastries. You follow the scent to a bakery window, where a baker pauses, wiping sweat from his brow, and offers a warm smile. It's a simple gesture but one that speaks volumes about the intimate bond between bakers and the city they feed. And as the morning light grows stronger, you realize that this aroma, rich, warm, and persistent, is more than just bread baking. It is the breath of Paris itself, whispering softly through the cobblestones and into your soul. You linger near the bustling market stalls, watching bakers interact with their patrons, the lifeblood of their trade. Among the early risers are nobles requesting bread with peculiar shapes, merchants demanding bulk orders for their taverns, and street vendors eyeing the freshest loaves for resale. Each request carries its own story, some practical, some downright bizarre. One patron asks for bread shaped like a crescent moon, believed to bring good fortune to her household. Another demands rolls flavored with herbs that were supposedly aphrodisiacs, a detail that causes quiet giggles among the bakers. A traveling merchant orders a batch of spiced bread meant to last weeks, an essential provision for long journeys. The bakers adapt swiftly, their skills honed to meet every odd or earnest demand. You overhear a whispered rumor about a wealthy client who once ordered a loaf baked with gold leaf, an extravagance that caused a stir among the bakery staff. While historians debate the veracity of such claims, these tales reflect the status bread held as both sustenance and symbol. The bakers' relationships with their patrons were complex. Some clients enjoyed special privileges, early access to new recipes or reserved daily loaves, while others bargained fiercely over prices. You notice the polite but firm manner in which bakers managed these negotiations, balancing goodwill and business acumen. Women patrons, often overlooked in historical accounts, played vital roles in shaping bakery offerings. From discreetly commissioning treats for celebrations to influencing popular flavors, their tastes and preferences subtly steered the baker's output. Amid these exchanges, you glimpse a baker carefully inscribing a note for a client, a practice used to convey instructions or personal messages hidden within bread orders. This blend of commerce and communication adds a layer of intimacy to the transactions. Historians still argue how much these personalized interactions influence Paris' culinary evolution, but it's clear that bakers and patrons shared a dynamic dance, each shaping the other in unexpected ways. As you watch a baker smile warmly at a returning customer, you sense that beyond bread, these connections forged community and continuity, a nourishing bond baked as deeply as the loaves themselves. You slip through a narrow alley to a quieter part of the city, where the role of women in the bakery world begins to reveal itself, a facet often hidden beneath the flour-dusted tales of male bakers. Here, in the intimate kitchens and behind the counters, women's hands shape the dough and nurture the fires. their contributions as vital as the ovens themselves. You find a small, warmly lit bakery where a woman, dressed in a simple linen gown with a brightly colored scarf, kneads dough with practiced ease. Her movements are steady, rhythmic, a dance perfected over years. Women like her often managed family-run bakeries, weaving together baking, bookkeeping, and childcare, a juggling act that kept the city fed and homes warm. The smell of freshly baked brioche mingles with the scent of herbs drying on a nearby shelf. You notice a small, hand-stitched pouch hanging from a beam, filled with lavender and thyme, plants believed to protect the bakery and its inhabitants. This herbal charm is just one example of the quiet traditions women maintained, blending practicality with superstition. Women also served as the early testers of recipes, their palates shaping the subtle flavors that distinguished one bakery from another. Some were known for secret blends of spices or unusual breads reserved for special occasions, their recipes jealously guarded and passed through generations. You overhear a conversation about the galette de roi, a cake rich with symbolism and enjoyed during winter festivities, often prepared by women in their home kitchens before gaining popularity in commercial bakeries. Such traditions reveal the deep cultural imprint women left on Parisian baking. Historians still argue the extent to which women's contributions were recognized or recorded, with many stories lost or overshadowed by their male counterparts. Yet, the enduring legacy of these women's hands is visible in the softness of the crumb, the richness of the dough, and the warmth of Parisian hospitality. As the woman pulls a golden loaf from the oven, her face illuminated by its glow, you sense a quiet pride, a connection to centuries of women who, through patience and skill, sustained the city's heartbeat in flour and fire. In this cozy, often overlooked corner of the bakery world, you discover a tapestry of resilience, creativity, and love, ingredients as essential as yeast and grain to the fabric of 18th-century Paris.